Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello to you. Welcome back to the channel where today you join me at Aston Martin's HQ in Gaydon, England, because we're here for the launch of the new DBS Superleggera. We're going to head into the preview room and take a first look at their brand new Super GT. If this doesn't build up the anticipation as we walk towards the room in which the car is going to be revealed, I don't know what does. Some hints towards the V12 soundtrack, but let's see the covers off. Wow, here it is. The new Aston Martin DBS Superleggera, their latest range-topping V12 front-engine Super GT. We're going to take a full detailed look around this, but just look at the design, the aggressiveness, sportiness of it. This huge front end for cooling, for aerodynamics. The car boasts 180 kilos of downforce. It makes 725 horsepower and 900 newton meters of torque. This car in the Satin Xenon Grey looks incredibly aggressive. I want to talk to you all about it, but just to take it in, it's a little bit wider. It's significantly faster. They've reworked the gearbox, given it even more sound. Just the quad tailpipes, the carbon fibre parts you can see around the car, the fixed spoiler at the rear, the Aeroblade 2, carbon fibre options we have everywhere on this car, a new carbon fibre bonnet clamp as well. There is a lot to take in, but just come down here and have a look at this. What a way to present it. So let me get all of the details around the car, and then we will start taking a full walk around. The car is being described as a brute in a suit, and when you take a look at it, you can very much see where that name comes from, but it's actually now the third generation of Aston Martin DBS. The first back in the late 60s, from 1967 to 1972, a car that Roger Moore drove twice in James Bond films, and then the second generation more recently that featured with Daniel Craig as well in a Bond film, so who knows what the future holds for this one, but the third generation named the DBS Superleggera. So this particular car is a VP car, prototype car, but the final version will wear a Superleggera badge right here on the carbon fibre bonnet. That's a historical tribute to their work with Carrozzeria Touring, who designed and worked on many of the earlier cars, Superleggera being the Italian word for super light. So we're talking DB4, DB5, DB6, those eras of Aston Martins. Now just to take a look at it, I want to talk a lot about the aerodynamics. The car is designed with aero in mind. Everything is functional. It generates 180 kilos of downforce at Vmax. So we can talk about some of these aerodynamic features, and the first thing you will notice is this very, very significant gaping front grille, the wide mouth you could call it, almost akin to some of the Zagato cars of recent years, but this is to get as much airflow through the car as possible, and at Vmax, this will actually draw through it 13,500 litres of air, which is a huge number. Certainly sounds very impressive. That then cools through the V12 engine, the Twin Turbo V12. We'll have a look at that in a moment, and the air can release through these large vents on the top and head over the top of the car as well and out of the way. You'll also notice some quite aggressive shapes and lines that travel over the top and length of the car. Coming back round to the front though, down at the front you have an extended carbon fibre front splitter, and underneath the car there are vanes to direct airflow and control where it's flowing through as well. You can see the mesh openings here with even more area for cooling around the front there, as well as air that's controlled and glided around past the wheels. So up here, the curlicue that we saw in the DB11 has been replaced with a new side louver that can bring twice as much air out. So the high pressure air that builds up inside the front wheel wells when driving at speed can be released outside of the car. Another feature that's come from Aston Martin's motorsport and development programs is this down here, the stirrup. So airflow from the wheel wells can also be guided around the car there, and you'll notice as we look down towards the back the very wide arches. This car is 20 millimeters wider at the rear than DB11. It is 10 millimeters wider at the front. And if we come down towards the back then to continue talking about this, as per DB11, airflow comes in through the rear corner of the windows towards the back, where the new Aeroblade 2 has twice as much ability to release the air out of the back behind this fixed spoiler. So the DB11 had a spoiler that would raise and lower at speed. This one is completely fixed in place above, new tail light design that you can see there. of course with the slightly wider body. Coming down below, the quad exhaust pipes, 2 on each side, sitting above the double diffuser that we have back here as well, again with blades to direct air, so you can tell that this car is designed with aero in mind, how open it is there behind those very wide rear tyres that are developed specifically for this car with Pirelli P0s. So the car comes in at 1,693 kilos, that makes it 70 kilos lighter than the DB11. Quite a few different parts done to make those savings, so carbon panels, the bonnet clam and the boot lid and the visual carbon parts you can see. Also new forged wheels, carbon ceramic brakes as standard, so the unsprung mass by having the lightweight forged wheel and the ceramic brakes reduces by 24 kilos. That is a huge number. But let's just come around and have a quick look at the interior, very much modelled on DB11 as we've seen it before. But if we just open the swan doors up here, we're greeted by a slightly new look, a very sporty interior on this pre-configured specification. So we have obsidian black leather mixed with Alcantara, the squared steering wheel, and the chopped carbon style you see for the trim panels as well. But new in here are a new sport seat, so standard sport seat on the DBS. Very, very cool design to this, and the way the side bolsters will clearly hug you when you're sitting inside here, but familiar from before. The ability to open and close the storage bucket in the centre, the electronics that come from Daimler, but also the electronics to handle the additional power of the car. Talking of which, let's come around and open up the bonnet. Let's come and have a look at this engine and talk about some of the performance data. So in here, the 5.2 litre twin turbocharged V12. This car, 725 PS, which is 715 brake horsepower. We've got 900 Newton meters of torque and a top speed of 211 miles per hour, 340 kilometers per hour. It will get you 0 to 60 miles an hour, just under 100 kilometers an hour, in about 3.3 seconds. Now this bonnet panel is made from carbon fiber. Just come and have a look at the underside here. You can have a look at that. See the exposed carbon fiber on the finish, but that allows them to make these aggressive shapes and styling cues that you can see around the front. It also gives us a great view of this new side louvre and the way those different fins are used to direct airflow. That's actually fascinating to look quite close at, how they're shaped and designed to work like that. Of course, being a sportier car, the suspension is worked on and made more sporty. The gearbox is also reworked. It's the 8-speed ZF, being slightly lighter than a dual clutch system, but to handle the torque. 900 Newton meters is a huge number for the torque of the car. And if we close the bonnet back down, which it does, I always like this exposed slot for the headlights to pull back into. Back towards the rear, gently come around to the other side, just to close that down as well and take it all in. Just look at the car a little bit more about the design. You can see that it's sharpened up from the DB11. Naturally, it will sit at a higher price point than that car. It is Aston Martin's Super GT, but the way the nose of the car leans forward, it's so aggressive. You can see there actually right around the front, the carbon splitter and the very top point of the nose being that very, very end forwards prominent stance. And if we come through just to talk actually about this grille, this huge grille that no doubt would hold a number plate in the centre of it in markets where you require one. It has a 3D texture to it, which is all about straightening the air that comes through for the optimum cooling when it gets inside the car. And interestingly, the DBS Superleggera is 35mm shorter than the DB11 V12 and AMR, and that's to do with weight distribution, optimizing it for the perfect drive. So no doubt driving one of these would be a fantastic experience. There is a lot of power coming out of that 725 horsepower, 900 Newton meters. Familiar, very pretty Aston Martin looks. And I'm just going to jump back to the inside of the car and take a seat in it for a moment, just to talk you a little bit more through what we have inside, including the dark chrome bezels that you can see around the air vents, the chopped carbon finish for the trim, but also, as we've seen on DB11, independent controls for your driving mode, going from GT, Sport and Sport Plus, and your dampers, your active dampers going between their 3 different modes as well, which is a system I think is really good. You have paddles that when you engage gear, when you jump in the car, will stay in manual if you first selected by the paddles, or you can press drive and use the more traditional controls. But the interior very similar to that of the DB11 and the DB11 AMR that we saw recently. Now in theory this car is a 2+2, but you're not going to fit a person of decent size in the back. There is not the most space in there, potentially at a squeeze for a short journey, but you can use that rear area for additional luggage space should you wish as well. And it's finished in the same material. So this is the sportier trim. We'll have a look at some of the different options that you can have on the car and the different finishes. There are some very nice leathers and quilting as well. But just to climb back out, have a last little look around the outside for the moment, just to take it all in. This car's wearing the optional carbon fibre roof, which is 1.75 kilos lighter than the standard roof, which is obviously quite a significant saving when you think about the centre of gravity point of the car and that being right up towards the very top. Outside of that, the car is, well equipped in terms of technology and features, and can be optioned with many different paintworks and additional options from Aston Martin's Q department as well, should you wish to completely personalise one. But let's go and take a look at some of those different options and pre-configured specifications. As I mentioned, this reveal is also an opportunity for customers to come and have a look at the cars, and here we have some of the different options just to take a quick look over. So there are 4 pre-configured specifications. You have Dark Alchemy, Modern Minimalist, Distilled Energy, and Dynamic Futurist. The car we've been looking at is Modern Minimalist, so you can just see some of those options configured in here with the paint mould and the different interior type finishes. But also, as I mentioned, here is an example of some of the stitching that you can have in the car if you go for the leather option on it. If we come over to the other side, down at the bottom here, we have the different wheels. So these first 4 wheels are the standard forged wheel design for the DBS. We've been looking at the lightweight wheel, of which you have it here in a few different finishes, but you can see painted in the dual tone diamond cut finish. Also, and this very nice textured dark finish as well, which is very, very smart. Then on the wall behind us, we have a range of some of the Q paints. You can let your imagination run wild when speccing up a car. For example, the different reds, the brighter colours, should you so wish. And also, just here, that is the Superleggera badge that's going to be found on the bonnet of the car. You can also opt to have the wings badges in their raw carbon fibre finish, and even the Aston Martin lettering can be had in the carbon fibre finish as well, should you wish. And if we come through, you've got the carbon fibre shift paddles that can be attached to the steering column, and for the bonnet louvers, you can have those finished in carbon fibre or a gloss finish as well, instead of the basic mesh that we've seen on the car outside, which is the standard option. This particular car, though, I have to say, looks very, very good. So that is this colour, white stone, a metallic, almost pearlescent, I suppose, white colour that we have there, mixed with the leather interior to match that. And then you have the distilled energy in the magma red, which is a very, very sporty configuration. So that is just a quick sample of some of the different aspects you can have if you specify your car to your own desires, different interiors, leathers, alcantaras, stitching, you name it. And lastly, you can also see here the difference between the normal brakes and the carbon ceramics. And if I just pick this up, carbon ceramic brake, quite significantly lighter than the regular brake, which I can't even lift from that position. That is much, much heavier. The difference there is ginormous. Back at the car then, just so you can see where some of those different options go. For example, the carbon louvers that you could opt to have instead of the regular mesh that this car is wearing there. But this car is very, very nicely spec'd. The wheels that match with the paint colour, the interior that lines up with that. I can imagine it's going to be a popular choice also. But just to come around, maybe you might want to opt for the carbon badge. You can also have that Superleggera badge, by the way. Oh, it's over here. That would be finished in carbon fibre also, should you choose to go for it. But this is definitely what I was hoping this car would look like. It's sporty, clearly designed for purpose. That Super GT, no doubt still a car that is going to be quite relaxing to drive should you want it to be. But I'd imagine when you dial it up, it's going to make for a very exciting driving experience, and hopefully we will find out in the future what that's going to be like, so make sure to stay tuned to see it as and when the time comes. For now though, just take it all in, have a proper look around the new car wearing, at the moment, the V12 AML plate designation back there, the V12 DBS Superleggera, the third in the line of Aston Martin DBSs. It's very different actually having just the Aston Martin lettering here at the rear as opposed to the more traditional wings badge that would be worn back there. But you can see as we just spend a little bit longer taking it in, the shapes, how deep it cuts in the side skirts here in towards the rear, and how that stirrup through to the extended blade clearly pivots down towards the front, giving it that stance and shape. And then there's the more traditional pretty lines, we could say, that run the length but enhance the size of the haunches towards the rear. But there we have it. the DBS Superleggera. So do let me know down below in the comments what you think of Aston Martin's latest Super Grand Tourer, but I've certainly enjoyed having a look at it today. I hope you've enjoyed this opportunity as well. So big thanks to Aston Martin for allowing me to come down today and have a little film and first look at the new DBS Superleggera. That is it for this time though. Thank you very much as always for watching, guys, and I'll catch up with you again very soon. Cheers!